Honor, picture for just a moment that you own a business, and due to the inability to focus and the irresponsibility of another person, something happens that costs your business a destructive amount. In other words, because someone made a poor choice, you have lost a lot of money. If this were you, you would be absolutely outraged. This is exactly what happened to R.C. Charlet. On a sunny morning in spring, Mr. Red Devon is driving along a rural county road, surrounded by fenced-off ranch land. In the back seat, his daughter is crying, and his two sons are arguing so loudly that he can't hardly hear the person on the other end of the phone. Ahead of him, Kelly Hereford has stopped in front of a gigantic roadblock, an award-winning bull worth $125,000. His name is Big Lou. Kelly Hereford raised him from a calf. Their reunion is short-lived because suddenly Hereford's car, is thrown forward because Devon's car hit the back of her truck. When Big Lou was hit, it broke all 4 of his legs. The sheriff was called, and he contacted Mr. Charlet in order to put the animal out of its misery. Now, I'm sure the question has popped into your mind. What was the bull doing in the road anyway? Well, I can assure you that it was of no fault of Mr. Charlet. Mr. Charlet is a 4th-generation experienced rancher who responsibly checks his gates and fences to make sure they are in good condition. If damages are found, repairs are prompt. And all the ranch gates have to be checked regularly to see if they are ajar. When RC gets up on the stand, you will understand just how responsible he is. You will hear from Cody Barzona. He will tell you about the ranch and the procedures they have to follow on a daily basis. And finally, you will hear from Kelly Hereford, the young lady who valued Big Lou so much. And she will explain to you the incident and the unfortunate death of the prize bull. We will also show you that Mr. Devon was driving distracted that day and failed to keep a focused lookout and overall failed to keep his vehicle under control. Mr. Devon is an irresponsible driver who has no regards for others on the road, and it was because of that negligence that he must be held responsible for his actions. Poor decision-making, which caused Mr. Charlet to lose so much and dealt such a drastic blow to Double Knot Ranch.
Thank you, Counsel. I need you to leave the microphone up.
All right.
Now we'll have defense opening statement.
Is that okay? May I proceed, Your Honor?
Please proceed.
Your Honor, opposing counsel, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we are drawn here together today to understand why R.C. Charlet is suing a man named Red Devon. On the morning of March 31st, Red Devon is running some errands. At that time, he is passing the Double Knot Ranch, which is owned by R.C. Charlet. Suddenly, a truck driven by Kelly Hereford passes him at an incredible speed, as if Red Devon is standing still, and smashes into a bull owned by Mr. R.C. Charlet. Now, the bull that Kelly Hereford's truck hit was a prize bull worth a considerable amount. And today, R.C. Charlet is suing Mr. Red Devon because Kelly's vehicle hit the bull. The plaintiff, which is the opposing counsel, is trying to make it seem as though Red Devon is at fault for the death of the bull. We are the defense, and we are going to show you that Red Devon is not responsible for Kelly's hitting the bull. Today you will hear testimony from 3 of our witnesses. They will make it clear that Red Devon is not responsible for this accident. The plaintiffs will tell you that Red Devon was distracted and that it was his fault for being distracted. However, our first witness, Red Devon, will tell you, even though he was driving his kids to school and talking on a speakerphone, it doesn't matter. From Red Devon, you will hear how he saw Kelly Hereford pass him at high speed, and then how he saw Kelly's truck hit the bull. Red Devon will tell you that Kelly's vehicle bounced to the side as if it hit something before Red Devon's vehicle made any contact with Kelly's. After that, our next witness, the sheriff named Dusty Rhodes, will testify. Dusty Rhodes will tell you that he, a trained professional himself, did not think Red Devon was responsible for the accident. He didn't give Red Devon a single citation. Now, keep in mind that it is the law in Wyoming that someone like R.C. Charlet has to keep his or her livestock, in this case the bull, inside his fences and out of the road at all times. By Wyoming law, R.C. Charlet had to take reasonable care to make sure that his bull could not exit his property. Considering that, when our next witness testifies, Chris Limousine, he will tell you how R.C. Charlet never took good care of his ranch, and how he has tried to inform R.C. of problems with his animals getting out and even damaging his own ranch. What's more, Chris will tell you that he saw an open gate the morning before the accident. The morning of the accident, but before. He will tell you that he gave R.C. a call that morning telling him that the gate was down before the accident. Ladies and gentlemen, we, the defense, will show you that Red Devon is not careless. Today, it is up to you, the jury, to realize that because the bull was out of the fence and because Kelly hit the bull, Red Devon is in no way responsible. R.C. Charlet is the one at fault. R.C. Charlet should have taken reasonable care of his assets. And it is R.C. Charlet that should have kept his bull inside his property. The burden of proof is on the plaintiffs. They must convince all of you that it was Red Devon who caused the death of the bull. If there is any doubt in any one of your minds, you must rule in favor of my client, Red Devon. There is plenty of doubt in this case, especially since my client made no contact with the bull. Plus, the accident report doesn't point to my client in any way. Red Devon and the physical evidence is not conclusive. Even so, you will hear different sides to this story from both eyewitnesses, but at the end of the day, my client's vehicle never touched the bull. Throughout this trial, you will be asked to find the truth. The problem is, the truth won't be easy to find. You will be asked to find who is at fault. The problem is, it's more difficult than you think. We, the defense, will make it very clear that the facts the plaintiffs bring up are inconclusive and unproven. The plaintiffs have got to prove that Red Devon was completely responsible for the death of the bull. If they don't, Devon cannot be guilty. Thank you, Your Honor.
Counsel, you might leave the microphone, please.
Oh, yeah. Case operator.
Plaintiff, will you call your first witness, please?
Plaintiff calls R.C. Charlet to the stand.
All right. Witness stand is right over here. Raise your right hand, please. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Will you state your name, please?
I'm R.C. Charlet.
All right. Would you sit and use the microphone there, please? Proceed, counsel.
Can you please introduce yourself to the courtroom?
I'm R.C. Charlet.
What is your profession?
My profession is a rancher, and I'm the owner of the Double Knot Ranch.
How long have you owned the Double Knot Ranch?
The ranch has been in our family for 4 generations, and I have owned it ever since I inherited it from my father.
What are the daily routines around the Double Knot Ranch?
Some of our daily routines is to check the gates and fences weekly to make sure that the gates and fences are in prestigious shape, and also to ensure that the gates are closed.
Mr. Charlet, could you please explain what you were doing on the morning of March 23rd, 2011, before the accident?
I had been working. I had woken up at my usual time, 5 a.m., to start doing chores around the house, and then I went back in at 7 a.m. to eat breakfast.
How do you feel about the development going on around Carter City?
I am not a big fan of the development because in years past, kids from the development have come to my ranch, opened the gates, and harassed my cattle on their four-wheelers, and then they leave without closing the gates.
Around what time did you receive the call from Dusty Rhodes?
I received the call around 9 a.m. On the morning of the accident.
Could you please explain what he was calling you about?
He was calling me about how some cattle had gotten out and that there was a big bull lying on the road.
What happened when you arrived at the scene of the accident?
When I arrived to the scene, I saw my prestigious bull, Big Lou, lying in the road, and I also saw that there was a truck that had been tailgated by a van.
After you arrived at the scene, what had to be done?
I was forced to euthanize my prestigious bull, Big Lou.
How did you obtain Big Lou?
I had received Big Lou from the owner of the truck, Kelly Hereford.
And how much did you purchase him for?
I purchased Big Lou for $125,000 because he was a state winning champion at the 2006.
What did Big Lou do for you?
Big Lou had been bringing me income from stud fees from other ranchers who wanted to breed their cows in with him, and he was the best investment I ever made in livestock.
There are no further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Mr. Charlet, you are in fact the owner of the Double Knot Ranch.
Yes.
You take good care of it?
Yes.
Do you have good standards on how you ranch?
Yes.
Good intentions for the right people for jobs?
Yes.
And these people help keep your livestock in your boundaries?
Yes.
And you hired a person like Cody Barzona, your ranch manager, for the job.
Correct.
You felt her fully qualified for this job?
Yes.
Now, her and Mr. Barzona do the job together, and you think they do a fine job?
Objection?
Basis.
That was not, it's the impersonal property evidence.
This is cross-examination. I'll allow a question.
So, her and Mr. Barzona do the job together, and you think they do a good job, yes?
Yes.
And you, in fact, have had some kind of issue with both of them in the past. One of them or both of them.
Yes.
There has been incidences of people not doing their job, as they are told.
Yes.
So when you get down to it, it really comes down on your shoulders and how you do your job.
Yes.
Now, also in the past, you've had cattle get out of your gates.
Correct.
And when that does happen, you have neighbors nice enough to tell you about this.
Yes.
One of those people being Mrs. Limousine.
Yes.
So when the accident happened, the sheriff was the first person to inform you.
Yes.
And is it true someone else called you to inform you of something about your fences and livestock?
Objection? I did not mention that in my direct questioning.
Well, we're looking at the entire gambit of what happened that morning. I'm going to overrule you again and allow one quick question.
So it is true that someone had informed you of this, yes? Someone else?
Of the accident?
Well, not of the accident, but of possible fence now.
Yes.
And this was in fact Mrs. Limousine, am I correct?
Correct.
You had never answered the phone then?
I had not.
And never talked to her about it?
No.
She left a message, am I right?
Yes.
Had you listened to the message prior to the situation?
No.
Had you after?
No.
Okay, so you never listened to the message.
No.
So you deleted the voicemail without checking it, without knowing anything of what it entailed.
Objection? That's what I said.
Sustained, no foundation.
Yes or no?
So the objection is sustained.
Okay. All right, so when you arrived, you and Kelly and Red Devon were the only ones there?
No.
Okay, so when you got out, you talked to both Kelly and Red Devon, yes?
Correct.
Each with different stories?
Repeat that, please.
Each with different stories?
Yes.
Now, in discussing with Kelly Hereford of the situation, you told him you would pay for the damages of his truck.
Not at the time.
But, however, you did end up getting Kelly a new truck, am I correct?
Yes.
And in turn, you ended up, now, do you think that was a strong financial move on your part?
Yes.
So you believe that was a strong financial move on your part?
Yes.
So you're telling me it was a strong financial move on your part when you bought him a new truck, and without taking it into consideration that insurance will pay for most of the truck, even all of it?
Yes.
Please explain to me how good of a decision that was, taking a large amount of money and making it a poor investment.
I had done it because Kelly, the Hereford family had not been extremely rich, and they couldn't deal with both the accident on their insurance and the fact that Kelly had to go to school still.
All right, so now when it finally came down to euthanizing your bull, do you think that there was any hope for saving him at all?
No.
So you did not think about calling a veterinarian to check and see if the bull was okay enough to live?
No.
Even though you were suing Mr. Red Devon for future income on that bull, you still euthanized the bull?
Yes.
So one phone call to the vet wasn't worth it to you in the long run?
No.
Further questions, Your Honor?
Redirect.
May I proceed? Why didn't you call a vet?
Big Lou had been in too serious of a condition, and there was no chance of him being able to walk again.
Okay, there are no further questions, Your Honor.
Very well. Plaintiff, call your next witness, please.
Agent 12, representative stands.
Arizona, will you raise your right hand, please? Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Proceed, please.
Can you introduce yourself to the court, please? I'm Cody Barzona, and I live at the Double Knot Ranch. What's your job title at the Double Knot Ranch? I am the ranch manager. What are your duties at the Double Knot Ranch as a manager? Well, I help RC with whatever he needs help with, and I maintain all the necessary duties of a ranch manager, like taking care of cattle and all that stuff.
How many ranch hands do you have at the Double Knot Ranch?
About 15.
What is your daily life like at the Double Knot Ranch?
Well, every day I wake up around 4 a.m., have a cup of coffee or eat a biscuit or something, and then my my husband and I, we go and we check on the cattle and we keep a close eye on the fences.
Can you describe some of the workers at the Double Knot Ranch?
Say it again, please.
Can you describe some of the workers at the Double Knot Ranch?
Well, they're all really hardworking, very hardworking people. They help me, and they help RC.
What kind of problems have developed around the ranch?
Well, about 7 years back, we had some trouble with gates being let down. And we suspected cattle rustlers, but by the time we did a head count, all the cows were there. So we set up cameras and we found that there was a group of teenagers who would ride their four-wheelers up to the gate, open the gate, go in and harass the cows, and then just leave the gate down when they left.
What have you done to help this problem?
Well, we contacted the principal of Carter County High School, and we didn't have a problem with the teenagers since.
What did you do the morning of March 23rd, 2011?
Well, I got up like usual, and I went to the south pasture to check on the cows, and then I got the call from RC.
RC called, what did he say to you?
When he called me on the radio, and he said that I should come to the road 377 and told me to check the gates and stuff on my way.
When did you get the call from RC?
It was about 9 a.m., I think.
Do you know how Big Blue got out of the gates?
I don't know. When I checked, the gate was up, and maybe he jumped it. Maybe somebody opened and closed the gate. I don't know.
How do you guys handle down fences?
Well, whenever we see a down fence, we always just put it back up again. It's not that hard.
Your Honor, may I introduce the witness and the jury with Exhibit A?
Would you offer the document to the witnesses to identify it and foundation for it, please?
Yes.
Does opposing counsel have a copy of that exhibit? Show them to the witness one by one and have the witness identify.
Can you identify where the Double Knot Ranch is at?
The Double Knot Ranch is down here.
Just a moment, Mr. Witness. I don't want you showing it to the jury until it's been received.
Okay.
I need you to lay the foundation, what it is, who made it, when they made it, what it depicts.
This was a map made March
Oh, you
23rd.
asked the witness that.
When was this map made?
This map was made on March 23rd.
Who made this map?
I did.
Okay, what is this map of?
This is the Double Knot Ranch, where the wreck happened, where the ranch is, and just in the county road.
When was it made?
When was it made?
It was made the morning of the accident.
Now, you're offering this as Exhibit 6.
Yes.
Any objection to this witness or to this exhibit? All right, Exhibit 6 is received. Now you can show the witness the exhibit and have the witness show the jury what it means.
Can you show the jury what this map means?
This is a map that I drew of the ranch. The ranch is down here, this little square. And up here is where the wreck happened. And this is the road gate that RC had me check. Okay, this is the road.
When you check fences, what do you look for?
We check to see if they're down or broken.
Your Your Honor, may I introduce Exhibit B?
You may show the document to the witness and start the process again to lay the foundation.
Okay.
This is exhibit which?
Can you identify this?
This is a picture I took on my cell phone of the North Gate.
Okay, when was this made?
The morning of the accident.
Before or after the accident?
After.
May I see that from the counsel?
There you go.
And you mark this as exhibit what?
Exhibit B.
Let's put a B on there. Any objection, counsel?
Yes. How is it relevant to the trial?
Pardon me?
Relevance. How is this exhibit relevant to the trial?
Showing that their gate was up at the time that Big Blue got out.
Well, I'm not going to accept it to show what the situation was at the time of the accident. I will accept it to show the gate that was nearest to the accident scene.
Okay.
And of course, this was taken after the accident.
Okay.
For that purpose, it may be accepted. Objection is overruled.
No further question, Your Honor.
Cross-examination?
Okay. Ms. Barzona, would you say that you're a good ranch hand?
Yeah?
And does that extend to your job as ranch manager?
Yes,
Okay. As ranch manager, do you take your job seriously?
I do.
Do you find your workplace important to you?
Yes.
Do you hire all of the ranch hands?
Yes?
Do you run background checks on the ranch hands that you hire?
No.
No. Would any type of manager in any other job situation run background checks to make sure their employees were able to do the job?
I don't know.
So you say you take your job seriously and your workplace is very important to you, but yet you don't run background checks on your ranch hands.
No.
Because you're a ranch manager, you said that, would you say running 3,000 head of cattle is a hard job?
Yes.
So, do the livestock ever go kick the fence down?
They rub up against it sometimes, but that's about it.
Is there a fence problem because of that?
You might say so.
Is the fence problem near the north gate where the accident that happened?
Yes.
But you checked the fence 2 days before the accident, correct?
Yes.
Not the day before,
No,
and
we
not the
check
morning
it-
before the accident?
We check it every week.
Every week, okay. So, even though there's a history of that gate having problems, you don't check the fence daily?
No, we don't find it necessary.
You check to see if the cattle are still in daily?
Yes.
So when you go out to herd the cattle, do you check the fence?
Yes.
And you just look at the fence?
We check to see if it's still up, then usually it is.
So you don't actually go up to the fence and check them?
No.
So you have nightly gate checks in place, don't you?
Yes.
Do you personally check the fences at night?
No.
You have your ranch hands do it, right? But you just said that you didn't check the gate
I don't check it.
the morning before or the day before.
No.
So you didn't check the fence that night before the accident?
But I'm for the accident, no.
Okay. Would you say your ranch hands are dependable?
Yes.
But you fired some for lying and stealing, correct?
Yes.
So even though you don't run background checks and you've had a history of lying and stealing, you still trust your ranch hands.
Yes.
Ms. Barzona, have you ever had problems with cattle rustlers?
No.
Were the cattle... Whoa, okay. Ms. Barzona, as a good ranch manager, is it safe to say that nothing happens on the ranch that you don't know about?
Yes.
Were there signs before the accident that the fence might fall down?
No.
So Ms. Barzona, so even though today we clarified that you don't run background checks and you still find the rent chance dependable, right?
Yes.
All right. So would you still say that you're a good ranch manager?
Yes.
And you watch the fences, right?
Yeah.
And has Mr. Charlotte ever threatened to fire you?
Yes.
And it's because he felt you weren't doing your job, correct?
Yes.
Because the fences were down?
One time.
So, Ms. Barzona, your employer threatened to fire you because he felt that you weren't doing your job, right?
Yes.
All right. No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Redirect.
Why don't you guys run background checks?
Well, we see when they show up and if they're ready to work, we hire them.
Okay, no further questions, Your Honor.
Please step down. Plaintiff, call your next witness, please.
Plaintiff calls Kelly Herford to the stand.
Ms. Herford, will you raise your right hand, please? Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Seat, please. Counsel,
Your Honor, may I proceed?
of course.
Ms. Herford, please introduce yourself to the jury.
I'm Kelly Herford.
Ms. Herford, where do you live currently?
I live on the two-bar ranch.
How long have you lived there?
My whole life.
Ms. Herford, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm 20 years old and my family has been on the two-bar ranch for 2 generations, and I currently attend Carter County Community College.
Where were you on the morning of March 23rd, 2011 at about 8 in the morning?
I was on Carter County Road 377.
How often do you drive on Carter County Road 377?
Several times a week. It's the only way for me to get from my house to the college.
Can you tell us what events occurred on March 23rd, 2011?
I was in a car accident.
Can you explain what happened?
I was heading over a crest in the hill, and I saw a big bull in the road, and I safely came to a stop without hitting the bull. And at this time, I realized it was Big Lou, so I started honking my horn at him, and he just looked at me. And then I was suddenly hit from behind by Red Devon.
What caused your truck to hit Big Lou?
I was hit so hard that from behind that it broke my seat.
How far away from the bull were you when you came to a stop?
About 2 feet away.
What would you call the weather that morning?
It was a sunny day.
How are you familiar with Big Lou?
I raised Big Lou from a calf.
No more further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-exam.
Your Honor. Kelly, you were heading to class at the college that morning, correct?
Yes.
And class started at 8:30 a.m., correct?
Yes.
But it was actually 8:30 when the accident occurred, was it not?
Yes.
In fact, you were still 15 minutes away from campus at the time class was set to begin.
Yes.
Are you a good student, Miss Herford?
Yes.
Isn't it a fair expectation that good students show up for class on time?
Yes.
On this day, you were running late. Were you in a hurry then?
Yes.
You weren't. You weren't in a hurry because you always show up late to class, right?
No.
So, you stated that you are a good student. So are you lying about being a good student, or are you lying about being in a hurry that morning?
About being in a hurry?
You and Mr. Charlet are good friends, correct?
Yes.
Would you call your relationship with him an acquaintance?
Yeah.
Would you say that he cares about you?
Yes.
Does he care about you enough to do what he can do to keep you in school?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, he bought you a new truck after the accident, correct?
Yes.
He is an acquaintance, but yet he would buy a vehicle for you?
Yes.
On the morning of the accident, you were traveling about 45 miles per hour on that stretch of the road, correct?
Yes.
You stated the bull was 50 yards in front of you when you crested the hill, correct?
Yes.
It was a dirt road, correct?
Yes.
The dirt road hadn't been graded since last fall, correct?
Yes.
It was somewhat loose gravel, correct?
Yeah.
Would you say it took you 5 or 6 seconds to get your truck stopped, correct?
Yeah.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Counselor. Redirect.
Your Honor, may I proceed?
Please do.
I need the microphone, Dallas. Why are you and RC good friends?
Because him and my dad work in the ranching business together.
Okay. Could you explain what happened to the money you got from selling Big Lou to RC?
I gave some of the money to a scholarship fund to help livestock foundation.
Right. No more further questions, Your Honor.
You may step down. Has the plaintiff any further evidence or witnesses?
We have no more further evidence or witnesses at this time, Your Honor.
Does the plaintiff rest?
Yes.
All right, we turn to the defense now. The defense call its first witness, please.
Defense calls Red Devon to the stand.
Red Devon, will you raise your right hand, please? Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Counsel?
Your Honor. Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Red Devon.
Where do you live?
I live in Wyoming, in the Prairie View development west of Carter City.
What were you doing the morning of March 23rd, 2011?
On that morning, I was driving my 2 older kids to school.
Do you only have 2 kids?
No, actually I have 3 kids, but my youngest, Alyssa, isn't ready for school yet.
How often do you drive this route?
Almost every day, I have to take them to and from school.
Did you see any traffic on the road?
Yeah, there was an old pickup truck, which turned out to be Kelly Herford.
Did you see anything unusual?
I remember that pickup truck passed me like I was standing still just before the accident. That pickup was definitely speeding.
How fast were you going?
Well, I was going about 45 miles an hour.
How fast would you say Kelly was going?
Well, like I said, he passed me like I was standing still.
Was there anything else that was unusual about that morning?
Well, as I was driving past the Double Knot Ranch, I saw that one of their gates was down. But that's not the first time that's happened either.
Can you describe any aspects of that morning?
Casper. Well, it was daylight and the weather was clear.
Can you describe the wreck to me, please?
I was following along the usual distance, maybe 3 or 4 car lengths behind. But as we crested a hill, Kelly had slammed on her brakes, and I braked as hard as I could, but everything happened so fast.
Did you see anything before you hit the vehicle in front of you?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that that pickup had hit something.
What made you think that?
Well, it looked to me like it came to a stop in a way that wasn't normal, like it had hit something, because it kind of bounced off to one side.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
Your Honor, I'd like to make this exhibit C.
What is the exhibit's number?
C?
You can sign anything you want to it. See?
Yeah.
And may I see that?
Sure.
This is part of the investigating officer's report.
Mm-hmm.
I take it your purpose for offering this would be to show the depiction of the accident itself.
Yes.
All right. Counsel, let me tell you that in most courts, the investigating officer's report cannot come into evidence.
Okay.
The officer can testify relative to what he did.
Okay.
With that in mind, and because we need to move this matter along, and your sole purpose is to go through the diagram that this witness drew, if you establish that he drew it, why he drew it, and when he drew it, I will allow that to come into evidence.
No.
No one.
No, Your Honor.
You don't want an evidence?
No.
You withdraw?
Yes.
All right. Please proceed.
Mr. Red Devon, what did you do after the accident?
Well, after the accident, we were still sitting in my car, and my own car came on. The advisor asked if everything was okay, and I said that we were in a wreck and we needed help.
Was everybody okay?
Yeah, we were all okay, but I was really worried about my kids.
After you talked to the on-car advisor, what did you do?
We waited in the car until the sheriff got there.
Well, how long did you wait in the car for the sheriff?
About 40 minutes, so I put in a movie for the kids, and I got out of the car to talk to the sheriff when he got there.
What happened between you and the sheriff?
Obviously, he interviewed me, and I told him everything that I'm telling you today, which is the truth.
When did R.C. Charlotte get there?
RC showed up about 10 minutes later after the sheriff.
Did anything happen after Charlotte R.C. got there?
I had overheard a conversation between RC and Kelly about suing someone.
Can you explain that further?
Well, yeah. From the second that RC got there, him and Kelly were talking in a really friendly manner.
And what were they saying?
Well, I'm certain I heard RC say to Kelly something like, "We know what happened here, right?" And Kelly definitely said, "That's what we got for letting these city people out here." I don't know what that means, but I heard it.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
You're a busy dad, right?
Yes.
You take your kids everywhere they can go, right?
Yes.
You had your children with you, right?
Yes, I did.
Is it true that you moved here less than a year ago?
That's true.
Are you familiar with Carter County Road 377?
Yes.
Is it true? Is it true that you are not familiar with the Winding County roads?
No, not all of them.
Would you call Carter County Road 377 a country road?
Yes.
So you just said that you were not familiar, that you were familiar with Carter County Road 377, right?
That's what I said.
But in your affidavit, you said that you were not familiar with Carter County Road, country winding roads.
No, I'm not familiar with all of them.
And you called Carter County Road 377 a country road, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Is it true that you are not familiar with farm animals that wander into and across the roads?
That's true.
Is it true that the weather was clear that day?
That's true.
Is it correct that you could still see the pickup in front of you after it passed?
That's true.
Did you see the pickup in front of you slam on its brakes?
Yes.
Is it possible your reaction time was slower? Moving on to that question. Mr. Devins, the road was a dirt road, correct?
That's correct.
Was it possible that Miss Hereford skid when she slammed on her brakes?
That's true. That's possible.
Are you an expert in vehicle behavior?
No, I'm not.
So you can really say that Miss Hereford hit something, correct?
Can you please restate the question?
So you can't really say that Miss Hereford hit something if she was up driving on a dirt road.
No.
Okay, no more further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
No further questions, Your Honor?
Very good. Will the defense call the next witness?
Yes, the defense would like to call Sheriff Dusty Rhodes to the stand.
You may step down here. Sheriff Rhodes? Sheriff, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Permission to move from behind the pedestal, Your Honor.
You may.
Would you please state your name to the jury?
My name is Dusty Rhodes.
And would you tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. Rhodes?
I'm the sheriff of Carter County. I was the deputy before that.
And about how long have you been in law enforcement?
My whole life, but I've only been a sheriff for the last 5 years.
And how long have you been in the sheriff's office?
The sheriff's office is 5 years, and the deputy was 2 years before that.
Fantastic. And during your time as sheriff, have you gotten to know?
Just a moment, counsel. I need you to speak louder. Witness, I need you to get closer to the microphone.
Oh, I don't have a little thing.
Got it over there, counsel.
During your time as sheriff, have you gotten to know R.C. Charolais?
Fairly well.
And how would you describe your relationship with Mr. Charolais?
Well, we're not exactly friends.
Have you ever been made aware of, or what makes you say this?
Well, he financed someone to run against me these last 2 terms, and I didn't much care for that.
And professionally, how has this affected your relationship with Mr. Charolais?
It's put strain on our relationship, but, I mean, he can put someone up against me, that's fine.
And when he contacts you, does he have anything to say?
Not very much, no.
And other people who contact you about RC Charlotte, what do they have to say?
They usually tell me that his fences are down or that some bull's out, especially Chris Limousine.
And what do you tell to Mr. Limousine?
I tell him to call RC himself. It's not my job to patrol every single down fence or loose cow.
And what kinds of problems have local ranchers had with their fences in the past?
There was an incident quite a few years back about some kids who had gotten on their property and harassed their cattle.
And this is still a problem, right? How bad is it?
It's not a problem anymore. The school got it pretty good taken care of.
So where were you on March 23rd, 2011, the morning of the accident?
I was having a cup of coffee and breakfast burrito from my deputy Chester.
Great. And how were you informed of the accident, Sheriff?
I received a call over my radio from our dispatcher.
And where did this accident take place?
On County Road 377 along the double knot fence line.
And what can you tell us about this road?
It's a pretty well maintained road. It was recently graded and the speed limit is 45 on it.
And when did you arrive at the accident, Sheriff?
I arrived about 9:15.
And when did RC Charlotte arrive at the accident?
About 10 minutes later.
Could you describe the scene at the accident, please?
When I arrived, there was the bull in front of Kelly Herford's truck, and Red Devon's van had rear-ended Kelly Herford's truck.
And what action did you take when you arrived at the scene?
I started my investigation.
And what did your investigation entail?
I measured skid marks. I took pictures of the skid marks with my cell phone.
And you interviewed both of the witnesses on that morning?
Yep.
And Mr. Hereford, what did he say?
He said that the van rear-ended him after he stopped and that he was going around 45 at the time.
When he says around 45, what does that really mean?
It means he may have been going faster than 45.
And what about Mr. Devon? What did he have to tell you?
Mr. Devon said that she thought that she had seen the truck hit the bull before she hit the truck.
And knowing that the bull's legs were broken, what action did Mr. Charlotte take?
He chose to euthanize the bull.
Sheriff, what qualifications do you have for accident reconstruction?
Going through law enforcement school, they require you to take a course on crash reconstruction.
And you're pretty well informed about accident reconstruction?
Yes.
Okay. Did you consult anyone else, say an expert like the Highway Patrol?
No, I didn't feel the need to.
Why?
Well, no one really got hurt. A bull was all there was. A bull is all that got hurt.
What sort of things do you look for at these accidents?
I look for the skid marks and
the skid marks of this particular accident, what did they tell you?
they were really overlapping. You couldn't tell anything.
To whom did you issue a citation at this accident?
I didn't issue any citations.
For what reason?
They both have wrecked vehicles, and a citation would have made their insurance go up more.
And why didn't you issue a citation to Mr. Charlotte for his bull?
Well, he had already just lost a bull, and I figured that was punishment enough.
So what evidence did you procure from this accident, Sheriff?
That there wasn't enough evidence to have someone at fault.
But in particular, did you find or keep any evidence?
I did. I kept the pictures I took of my cell phone.
Where's this evidence now?
I lost it in an accident.
Could you explain this accident, please?
An 18-wheeler blew a tire in front of me on the highway the other day, and my phone went out the window.
What action did you take to recover it?
The phone was lost.
Very good. Who else arrived at the scene that morning?
Cody Barzona did.
And why would he have been there?
He was the ranch manager for the double knot.
And what were his responsibilities?
His main responsibilities are keeping the cattle, livestock, inside the fence.
And what did he have to say about keeping those cattle inside?
He said that he had rode past the north fence gate on the way to the accident that morning,
When did he ride by these fences?
on his way to the accident.
Very good. From your professional standpoint, Sheriff, what is the most important factor in this accident?
That the bull got out. I mean, if the bull hadn't got out, there wouldn't be an accident at all.
And why might this bull be outside of the fences?
Probably due to negligence on either RC or Kelly Hereford, or Cody's part.
And so, this accident, whose fault would you say it is?
I would say really it's probably RC's fault.
Thank you very much. There are no further questions.
Cross-exam.
Sheriff Rose, you have been involved in law enforcement for almost a decade, correct?
Correct.
And you've been sheriff for 5 years.
Yep.
Part of your duties include being dispatched to incidents similar to the one Red Devil was involved in, correct?
Yep.
When you arrived on scene, I assume you followed protocol and interrogated both witnesses separately.
Mm-hmm.
Is it true that you examined the scene as well?
Yes.
And you noticed skid marks on the road?
Mm-hmm.
Is it true that you normally call highway patrol to examine the scene?
Sometimes.
Sheriff Rhodes, are you an expert in accident scene examination?
No.
Sheriff, did you take pictures of the scene?
Yes.
But you didn't take pictures of the scene with a county-issued camera?
No.
You took pictures of the scene with your cell phone, correct?
Yes.
And these pictures are not available to the court today?
No.
And you lost the pictures in an accident, you said, correct?
Correct.
The window was down?
Yeah.
The phone was in your hand?
Mm-hmm.
Were you talking on the phone?
No.
Were you texting?
No.
So the phone was in your hand just to be there?
In case I got a call.
You couldn't have put it in your cup holder or on your dashboard?
Maybe, but that probably would have distracted me more reaching.
A yes or no would be simple enough, thank you.
Okay.
So when you got in the accident, it fell out of your window and it was destroyed.
Yes.
So you failed to call highway patrol to check a scene where you were not an expert. You took your pictures on a cell phone rather than a county-issued camera. And then you lost the pictures because your phone was destroyed in an irresponsible act. Sheriff, did you write any citations for this incident?
No.
Sheriff, you said that you got your Wyoming Peace Officer's license after 2 years at Carter County Community College, correct?
Correct.
Is it possible that you didn't write any citations in order to keep the peace?
No.
All right. Thank you.
Redirect.
Just for clarity, Sheriff, why did you not write any citations on that morning?
There wasn't any need to.
And why did you not call in the highway patrol to further investigate the accident?
This accident wasn't very large. Nobody got hurt, no lives were lost. All that was hurt was a bull.
And this bull was hurt due to what?
Either negligence on Kelly's part or Cody or RC's.
Thank you very much. There are no further questions.
Step down, Sheriff. Please call your next witness, please.
Defense calls Chris Limousine to the stand.
Raise your right hand, please. Swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yeah.
Please proceed. Proceed, counsel.
Can you please introduce yourself to the court today?
My name is Chris Limousine.
And Miss Limousine, where do you currently live?
I currently live next to the Double Knot Ranch.
And what is your ranch name?
My ranch name,
Ranch's name.
oh, my rancher's name is the ranch that I live on.
Yes.
The Pitchfork Ranch,
And where is the Pitchfork Ranch located?
next to the Double Knot Ranch.
And who is your neighbor?
My neighbor is RC Charlie.
Can you please describe your neighbor to the court, please?
He's very friendly.
What are the reasons that you and Charlie don't get along?
His animals kick down my fences.
Did you do anything about the animals always kicking down your fence?
Yes, I called the sheriff.
Did you ever confront Charlie about this?
Yes, I called him several times a week.
And what happened after that?
No answer.
Because you were having problems with the fence, did you want to stay on your ranch?
No, we wanted to move away, and I threatened to sue him.
What did Charlie do when you threatened to sue him?
Restate the question, please.
What did Charlie do when you threatened to sue him?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so back to your ranch. What stopped you from selling your ranch before?
RC Charlotte.
And what did Mr. Charlie do to prevent the sale?
He filed a lawsuit and raised questions about the title to my ranch
Why would there be title questions?
because the ranch wasn't originally ours.
How did you come to own the Pitchfork Ranch?
My husband Pat's mother had passed away and we inherited it.
On the morning of March 23rd, 2011, can you tell us what happened?
Pat and I were on our way to the airport.
And did you see anything out of the ordinary?
Charlotte's fence had been down.
And what happened after you saw the fence being down?
I had called Charlotte and let him know.
How often do you call Mr. Charlie?
We call him several times a week.
And does he fix the fence when you call him?
Almost immediately, but obviously he doesn't fix it well enough so that the bulls can't get out or the fence doesn't fall down again.
Do you call him often?
Yes.
All right, no further questions. Thank you.
Cross-examination.
May I proceed? Is it true that some people refer to you as a city slicker?
Yes.
Would this be due to the fact that you grew up in New York City?
Yes.
Is it true that you have only owned the ranch for about 4 or 5 years?
Yes.
Is it true that you think that the ranch is a boring place?
Yes.
Are you familiar with your neighbors?
Yes.
So it's fair to say that you do know your neighbor RC, correct?
Yes.
Is it true that you and RC didn't necessarily get along right off the bat?
Yes.
You were driving by the Double Knot Ranch around 7:15 in the morning and noticed a gate down, correct?
Yes.
You saw the bull inside the fence when you drove past, correct?
Yes.
Did it ever cross your mind to maybe close the gate?
No.
Mrs. Limousine, have you ever spoken to Mr. Charlie about his cattle or gates?
Yes.
Have you personally spoken to him?
No.
Is it true that after you tried to contact RC about the gates, you noticed the problem was generally fixed very quick, correct?
Yes.
And it is correct that you called Mr. Charlie at the time, but he didn't answer?
Yes.
Did you then realize that at that time, with the gate being open, it could become a hazard?
Yes.
Did you expect Mr. Charlie to answer your call?
No.
Are you familiar with Sheriff Rhodes?
No.
Okay, you called Red Devon to offer your information, right?
Yes.
Did you call the sheriff?
Yes.
Are you sure?
No.
Okay. If there was a wreck in New York City, would you call the police?
Yes.
Okay. But you didn't call the police, right?
No.
Okay. Mrs. Limousine, you were raised in New York, referred to as a city slicker. You own the ranch next door. You noticed the gate was down. You didn't put it back up even though you knew it was a hazard, and yet you still didn't call the police when you found out about the wreck, correct?
Yes.
Okay, there are no further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
Okay. So, Ms. Limousine, because you were raised in the city, would you say that changes whether or not you would call the cops if you saw a fence down?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Direct question. So at 7:15, where were you heading?
I was heading to the airport.
So because you were on the way to the airport, it didn't occur to you to fix the fence. So can you please tell us what happened after that?
Objection. She's leading.
I asked her what happened after that. That is a direct question.
Counsel, you address the court, not other counsel.
I apologize, Your Honor.
The objection is sustained because it is legal.
Restate the question, please.
What happened after you saw the fence down?
I continued on my way to the airport.
Okay. So you said earlier that you call Charlotte a lot because the fence is down, and this morning was no exception. So, to the question that you answered, for the plaintiff, about him not answering the phone, can you please elaborate on why you didn't expect him to answer the phone?
I didn't expect him to answer the phone because I called him several times a week and he never answered the phone before. I just leave him a voicemail and he never returns my phone calls.
No further questions, thank you.
No, Your Honor.
Defense rests.
Yes, sir.
All right, the evidence is in, testimony is given. The evidence consists of exhibits 6 and B. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, at this time, the court in Wyoming will instruct you, given the law of the case. I will read it to you in front of the attorneys. And this would be the law you would apply to the facts to come up with your decision. Well, I'm not going to do that. The law you can take with you when you go to the other room and look at it. Once the court has instructed the jury, then counsel will make closing arguments beginning with the plaintiff. Plaintiff, it's time to make your closing argument.
Your Honor,
Counsel,
permission to move from line voting.
of course.
Ladies and gentlemen, over the duration of this trial, both sides have presented their cases honestly and well. Ultimately, however, I think it is obvious who deserves the brunt of the law here. Red Devon is a reckless and irresponsible man who nearly wounded his own children and cost R.C. Chirolai a fortune. His disregard for safety and property was the result of Big Lou's death and the damages to Miss Hereford's vehicle as well as his own. He deliberately failed to exercise the slightest degree of caution by not placing his sunglasses over his eyes on a sunny day when they were easily reachable, being that they were on his head. Red was unable to control his own children while speaking over the phone on a road which he claims was unfamiliar to him. We cannot believe that Miss Hereford was responsible for all this, while Red Devon was multitasking and distracted in unfamiliar conditions. It was this result of recklessness and neglect for responsibility that was the cause of this catastrophe that left a man's prize bull dead. A bull valued at $125,000, the death of which added yet another financial burden to R.C.'s already strenuous job. It is fortunate that R.C. showed the level of generosity necessary to pay for the damages to Kelly's car. Otherwise, Red Devon may have very well wounded more than just R.C. and his bull. In the end, the only thing that I feel we, as well as the jury, can conclude is that Red Devon is an irresponsible man who has well earned the punishment that is coming to him. To let that man leave without any repercussions is absolutely absurd, and he's clearly worthy of whatever punishment he may receive, if not more. Thank you, Your Honor.
Vince?
Permission to move from behind the pedestal, Your Honor.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, at the beginning of this trial, we, the defense, stated to you that if the plaintiff was not able to prove that Red Devon did indeed cause the death of this bull, you could not say that she did. He did. And at what point in this trial did they prove this to you? Where's the proof, ladies and gentlemen? I don't recall any facts being stated that would actually point to our client leading to the death of Big Lou. Instead, what has happened is R.C. has once again tried to pass blame for his own shortcomings as a rancher on to someone else. Our client is in no way guilty. R.C. Charlet has chronic problems with keeping his animals inside of his pastures. This is noted by more than one witness. And when the plaintiff asks, well, why did you not call the sheriff on that morning to tell him that there was a gate down? The sheriff had told him to call R.C. because it was the neighborly thing to do. But R.C. is not a fan of neighborly things. He doesn't want new people out in his area. He likes it the way it is. The man's a relic. He's living in the past. He wants it to still be those days when he can leave his gates open and animals can wander around outside of his pastures. This is against the law. County Road 377 is more traveled than ever in the past. It's no longer an empty dirt road with little traffic. Traffic moves up and down all day, especially in the mornings and evenings. This piece of road is a dirt road. To expect either of the parties involved in the accident to have been able to stop short of this bull is ludicrous. The mere fact that this bull was out of the fence is breaking the law of the state of Wyoming. The fact that RC would have the nerve to blame our client for this bull's death is ludicrous. The man's a child. He has no sense of responsibility and no place in this court. We would like it to be known that Red Devin is a responsible man. He has 3 children. You can't raise 3 children being irresponsible. This is a daily routine, driving his family into town to do all their various activities, providing for his children so that they can live a happy life. Kelly Hereford, what would make us trust him? He's running late to his college classes. He is the man who raised the bull. Do you think he wants to be responsible for its death? Tell me where the proof is, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. No further comments.
Well, I feel ultimately that the defense's arguments of R.C. Chirlai's irresponsibility is gross oversimplification of the obvious evidence. His bull, his ranch, yes. But what the defense overlooks is the fact that he has the responsibility to check his gates nightly and maintain his fences weekly. Added to that are the numerous stressors which have been present at his ranch during this time. R.C. Chirlai is not an irresponsible man. Of course he isn't. These facts present would tell you that. How the defense sees any way of protecting Red Devin is far beyond me, as the evidence is clearly stacked against him. Devin's vague claims as to what happened that morning put him in a position that is favorable to any verdicts in no way whatsoever. He says that as Kelly was speeding past him, that it suddenly stopped before the bull. Yet, the speeding comment. Does this not bring up the question? Does this not beg for the question, if that car was speeding, then why did Red Devin manage to maintain a consistent distance between it? The pickup was definitely speeding, yes, but let's not forget that she is indeed in a hurry, and it is not worth forgetting that Red Devin was maintaining the same distance. The many holes in the defense's case are made evident by these facts, and I feel we've made it clear who should be held accountable for R.C.'s loss. Thank you, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, the case has been presented to you now. Now it's your turn to respond by making a decision. So you're going to be taken by the bailiff to the jury room. There you'll make your decision. When you have it, you let us know. I'm going to stay and visit with counsel for a while relative to what we just did, what you just accomplished. All right? Down this way.
Okay, we've come to a unanimous decision that R.C. Sherlin is 70% accountable for this because of his negligence in not picking up Miss Limousine's phone call, not checking the fence, and not making sure that his fences were secure. So negligence. And then Kelly, she was speeding and she came over to an abrupt halt over the hill, which, and some of her statements were inaccurate regarding her and R.C. Sherlin's relationship. I believe Red Devon is only 10% guilty for the fact that he was a distracted driver, and the fact that he did hit her truck, that was a mutual thing due to the fact that she was speeding and it was over a hill.
Thank you. Folks, when the plaintiff is found to be greater than 50% negligent, there's no recovery of any money. So in this case, this would have been a defense verdict, a defense victory on this case.
Could we countersue?
All right. Let me visit with you for a few moments, and I know you all are doing this for class purposes, but some of you may be going on to the state competition. So let me speak in that regard as to kind of critique what went on here. Guess you did a good job. On short notice, what you see on TV looks so easy to do, you found out it's not quite that way. Now you have to add rules to it. You have to do it a certain way. And I know how difficult it is, and I'm really pleased to see how well you've done and how far you've come. Now let's talk about some things that you need to work on. Number one, and it's the hardest thing in the world to do, you have to start making objections. Have to be proper objections. If there was evidence that came in here that should not have come in, for instance, when there was testimony asked of the sheriff, whose fault was it? The minute someone says to a witness, whose fault is it, you object. That's not what this person is to give a decision about. That's what the jury decides, whose fault it is. The sheriff may have a belief as to whose fault it is, but unless he's qualified as an expert witness in accident reconstruction, he can't give that answer. You need to object to that. It doesn't come in. Second, you had a problem here with the citations. The sheriff testified he can give citations. Folks, in a trial, the fact that a citation was or wasn't given is improper evidence. That can't even be mentioned unless the driver pled guilty to the charge, to the citation. If he pled nolo contendere, if he pled not guilty, the fact that he got it is irrelevant. The jury makes a decision whose fault it is, not the officer. And so that type of evidence is kept out. And I know it's hard when you're going through this, when you're trying to present the evidence and trying to stop other evidence from coming in. It takes time to do that. What you need to do is make sure you know what you're trying to do here. In a civil case, the plaintiff has the burden of proof. That's why the plaintiff gets to go first and last. You carry the burden. If the jury can't decide, you tip that scale just a little bit, then you lose. You have that burden. The defense is to make sure, or try to make sure, you don't get that little bounce and that little tip of the scale. So to do that, you have to know where you're going with each witness. Every witness, you should sit down before you start and pick 1 to 3 things that you want to bring out with that witness. It can be small or big, but 1 to 3. Now you can do peripheral things too, but there should be 1 to 3 main things with each witness. Then if it's your witness on the plaintiff's side, or if it's your witness on the defense side, part of your job, pardon me? All right, switch it around. If it's your witness on the plaintiff's side, or if it's your witness on the defense side, you as a lawyer have the obligation, as part of your duty, to get that witness ready. You have to, because you can only ask leading questions on cross-examination. You can't do that. You can't lead witnesses when it's your own witness. So what you have to do in response is spend hours with that witness to get them ready to testify, so that you're based together. Yes.
You can ask direct examination questions during the cross-examination, right? Direct questions.
Come again?
You can ask direct questions during cross-examination.
Sure you can, if you want to.
It's just risky.
But why should you? When you cross-examine someone, the lawyer should be testifying, not the witness. When it's your own witness, you have to let the witness testify because that's what the jury wants to hear. But when you're cross-examining, you testify, and you make sure that witness only asks yes or no. If the witness says, I can't answer that, yes or no, then you say, fine, let's go on to the next question. You don't want an open-end question during cross-examination. Because usually the witness wants to get an answer out that's not going to be good for you. He's on the other side. But with each witness, you have to make sure you get your 3 points out. Now, how do you do it on cross-examination to make it good? You had a witness here who allowed his or her young children to witness the euthanasia of the bull. To me, that's not good. When you cross-examine that witness, that's where you should start, because that witness needs to be destroyed. That witness obviously is the other driver. And so, the plaintiff has to destroy that witness, or attempt to destroy it. You have to do that. Another thing, when you're talking about exhibits, you have to keep in mind an exhibit is a piece of evidence, but it's only a piece of evidence if the court says it is. So when you offer an exhibit, you have to start by presenting it to the witness. The witness has to be the one that knows about the exhibit. And the witness then identifies what it is, what it is purport to show, when it was drawn up, why they did it, and then if the court allows it in the evidence, then you can talk about, all right, tell me what it does show in detail, and you can show it to the jury. But you got to get it in first. So you have to set the foundation. What is it? What it purports to show? Who took it? Why they took it? What it means? What is it? What, in effect, is the purpose? If you don't lay the foundation, the court ain't going to let it in. And you can't lay the foundation with someone who didn't prepare the exhibit, unless it's an exhibit like a photograph that the sheriff took. It's already in evidence, they can look at it. All right? I notice none of you use the affidavits. Sometimes the affidavits are really good evidence to bring out, and more importantly, it's good cross-examination material. The affidavit itself will not come into evidence, but the material in there can be talked about, and you can use it to impeach someone. And if you're going to try to make a witness look bad, usually when they give a deposition or an affidavit, there'll be one or two important places where they misstate situations. You can bring that out, or they forgot to bring things out. What you have to keep in mind, what the bottom line of any trial is, you, the lawyer, or the director, or the producer, you're the script writer, you do everything. But what you're trying to do is convince this jury that you're right and the other side's wrong. And so half of what you do is what you say, half of what you do is how you say it. On top of that, if you're not confident, if you don't project confidence, how do you expect the jury to look at you and say, this person knows what they're doing, I can rely on that person? When you speak and ask questions or make your opening and closing remarks, speak up. Say what you have to say. They're going to listen anyway, or they're going to hear you anyway. You might as well get it out there. You have to project confidence. You have to project belief in your case and belief in yourself. Because what you're doing is you're selling yourself. You're selling your argument. If you don't think the jury doesn't lean towards the attorney who appears to know what he or she is doing, who appears to have control of the situation, who it appears the judge kind of doesn't jump down on them, that makes a big difference. And so impressions are important. This jury may be with you 1 day to 3 weeks, but they look to you for guidance. Let's put it this way, they'll look to the lawyer for guidance. Your job is to make sure they look to you as a lawyer that they trust and rely upon. What to please. All right. Have we got a jury? Not yet. We've got a good one going here. Wow. Any questions?
Our jury's freshman birthday.
I came up with the, I figure out what you
The evidence was identified as the no? Okay. So
Once it came into evidence, once the court has said that is an exhibit now in evidence, then you can show it to anyone for any purpose, as long as they have something to say about it. But to get it in evidence, you have to have the person either drew it or is responsible for it. And in this case, it was the sheriff. So when the sheriff's on the stand, that's when you could say, what is this document? What does it depict? Who prepared it? When was it prepared? Why was it prepared? It's an evidence thing to do. Right. Right. And I will tell you, as I mentioned, the police report in Wyoming will not come into evidence. But the sheriff can use it to refresh his recollection to say this is his report. Drawing there, maybe the sheriff would have been able to get that. If someone would have had a drawing like that, the picture should have been there. Of course, that's a big point of the sheriff being somewhat incompetent, perhaps. And he loses the picture, didn't make pictures right away. The other thing you should recognize in a civil case, there's usually a pretrial conference where the attorneys and the judge get together. And many of these things about exhibits are resolved at that time, so you don't have to do everything in court. Those exhibits have all been agreed to. So many of those things are already taken care of. Yes?
All right, so if the cross-examination, if the direct questions didn't get the information they wanted to get out for the cross-examination, can we bring that stuff up, or?
Just put it this way, if the cross-examination is in part to obtain other evidence from the witness, of course you can.
All right, so I could have brought up the case.
Technically, in the past, if you're going to do that, someone could say you will call them on your own case, bring them back during your case. You know, do it again on the plaintiff's rebuttal. They can technically say that. But courts nowadays will say, look, it's the general area we're talking about here. Therefore, I'm going to let you go ahead and do that. You can bring that out. You can see you're changing positions somewhat. No longer are you asking yes or no questions. You know, you're trying to get evidence coming in from that witness that means something rather than evidence. So you find yourself now having to ask those questions of that witness. That can be very dangerous. All right?
Okay, I have two questions. First of all, in a closing statement, can the person giving the statement mention anything that was not mentioned in witness testimony or in cross-examination?
Counsel can make an argument where they can take fact A, fact B means C. But for them to imply or state that something was said that wasn't said, or to say something should have been said but I forgot to mention it, that's improper. And although a lot of times attorneys are hesitant to object when someone's making an open statement or a closing argument, the good ones will object at that time and point that out because it's wrong.
Can you even go as far as say, when you're talking about physical laws, like you have this much distance, you're going this fast at least, can you say, well, I've deduced using simple physics that he would have hit the ball or he would have stopped?
Sure. In your argument, you can do that. But you have to all get some testimony that's what it is. 60 miles an hour, 88 feet a second. You got to bring that out with something.
Okay.
It's usually by your investigator, or in this case, all you have is a sheriff. You need to bring that out. You can't just grab it up here and say, this is the way it is. You've got to have some foundation in the evidence to do that.
So we have to mention 45 miles an hour, 50 yards.
Sure.
Okay.
And then you want to bring it out with the witness on the stand, and you can use it in your argument.
Okay. And then, as lawyers, are there simple, subtle tactics, like when someone's giving a closing statement, can we glare at them and make them feel uncomfortable? Or
well, there's all kinds of simple little things that people do. There was a lawyer in Wyoming that when the other side was making a closing argument, he was always looking through a box of exhibits or potential exhibits, dropping them here and dropping them there. Well, of course, the jury's not diverted over there. Most courts will stop that from happening. When you rely, ask permission to leave podium, and you went and stood by the witness, that's fine, but you got to be real careful with that. Because sometimes then your voice drops, the witness's voice drops, and you have a nice little private conversation over there that no one else hears. So I would suggest there's nothing wrong if the court allows it to go close, but you need to move back and forth. You need to move away and move forward. Many times that's what a lawyer will do with the jury. Just stand there and ask questions, sometimes it gets pretty repetitious. So what you do sometimes to make sure the jury's with you is you move over here. You go over here and talk to them a bit. You do something to make sure they're still moving with you. And that's part of what the lawyer's function is too. You try to do it with your voice. Move it up, move it down. You try to do it with the questions you ask. But you have to make sure that you're not doing something the jury resents either. Some witnesses don't like someone right next to them. Some jurors don't like you right on top of them. So you have to be careful of how you're doing it and the purpose for which you do it too. Now those are things that come with time that you learn and you do. What you're dealing with right now is how do you get the evidence out? How do you project that your case is a better case? How do you look like you know what you're doing? How do you look like you're confident? So the jury can rely on it. It's really good. All right, anything else? Well, good job, really. I know those of you that go on, you've been working hard in the next 3 weeks, and I'm sure there's going to be many attorneys that will help you and visit with you about these things. Just ask them any questions you have, because many of us forget. When we're going through this here, many times I feel like jumping up and making objections, because it's natural to do that. But this will come to you too as you go into this and do it more often. And I'm sure those of you selected to go on to the state will have this down pretty good. Very good. Now we've got to see if that jury's up there.